Hello, everyone. This is James with Be Prepared Homestead. Just thought I'd go over some quail basics for those that are interested. Several months back, I decided to bite the bullet and start raising quails. And since then, I've learned quite a lot with them. So I thought I'd just share some of what I've learned with everybody else so that you know what to expect if you decide to raise quails for yourself. So I'm going to just go through the process of everything from when you first get your eggs, incubation, and then deciding the way you're going to raise your quails. So the first thing is if you aren't currently raising quails, you're going to order some viable quail eggs. Most people end up, ordering 24, somewhere right in there, to get yourself started. So I personally went out and did invest in an incubator with an egg turner in it so that it rocks the eggs back and forth. With quail eggs, you're going to want your incubator set somewhere around 99.9 up to 100.3, somewhere right in there is fine. Humidity level, needs to be around 55 percent humidity up to 60 something. That's fine too. Now, with humidity, just so that you understand, having too high or too low humidity levels for eggs in general, quail eggs. I've experienced this myself with a little chick I had hatch out a month ago. If you have the wrong humidity level, it can impact the way that the chick is born. They could be born way too small and they don't grow, or they can be born where they're spongy. I mean, there's just so many things that can happen if you don't have your humidity level correct when you're raising quail. So, go with the guidelines. It's not an exact science, but you want to keep it in the ball, in the range of where it needs to be for the humidity if you want to have a good success rate in how many eggs you have hatch and how many healthy quail that you get from your hatching. So I just had some new babies that hatched out today. They're still in the incubator drying. I have actually additional eggs in there because I put in, and this is something, unless you've done this before, you probably don't want to do it, but because you want to keep your incubator closed as much as possible, because again, you don't want a big fluctuation in temperature change. But I do have a couple of days worth of eggs in there, so I'm expecting more quails to hatch out tonight. Now, that being said, quail grow rapidly. So if you have baby quails that hatch out 24 hours apart from each other, the ones that are 24 hours old will run circles around your newborn. So you can't really put them right away in the same brooder. Now, 3 days later, yeah, they'll be okay. But that first 24 hours with baby quail is the most important. It's the hardest time because this is when they are still uncoordinated. They literally, I mean, you can put the tiniest little amount of water in there and you could have a little quail fall in it and drown. It's just that easy with them. And they that first 24 hours, if they get stuck somewhere, anything like that, they will just within minutes die. And they require a good heat source for that first, well, in addition to that, but the first 24 hours, they really need it bad, or they'll get the hypothermia and they'll die from that too. So making sure you have all the appropriate stuff to care for newborn quail is going to be important. The feed, I use a very tiny little top of, like, a twist off from a soda bottle to put water in. That way they can't really fall in it. And there's the first 24 hours are just kind of figuring everything out. So if you see one nibbling at a little something here or there, that's a good thing. They're figuring out where their food is, what water is, And you know, from that point you should see their coordination getting better, and so forth. Usually within the first 3 days, you know, if you get them past that first 24 hours, uh, you're usually pretty golden. You know, another 24, and then you know, all right, unless something really happens, whatever quails you have at that point, you've got. But it can be challenging, you know, raising them because they can be born with defects. And unlike chicks, if they're born with saddle leg or whatever, quail, you just can't put little casts on them to try to fix that. They just generally don't make it, or at least it's been my experience so far. I'm going to show you the incubator and the little quails that are in there, and then I'm going to move out to the brooder where I've got a few more that are stronger that hatch before them. That, you know, I usually leave the quail in the incubator for approximately 6 to 8 hours, just to let them dry off, and then I move them out into the brooder unless I think they need to be in the incubator a little bit longer. Sometimes some will seem a little more feeble and they need to be in that heat a little bit longer. When you put quail eggs into an incubator, the rule of thumb is when you first get the eggs, you want to open your egg package. You want to kind of just let them sit out for a few hours to acclimate in the environment. At that point, what I generally do when I'm letting mine acclimate, I'll put them in the egg turner in the incubator, but I'm not putting the lid on yet. I just put them in on the turner so that the turner starts to move the eggs, but they're slowly acclimating. After a couple hours, I'll go ahead and I'll put the lid on, and then we'll start to, you know, heat them up. Now you want to make sure that you put a date on, you know, when you put them in the incubator. The rule of thumb is after 16 days, you want to pull the eggs out of the turner and set them down in the bottom of the incubator. You don't want to leave them in that turner, because if they start hatching in that turner, you know, it could hurt them or kill them or whatnot. They're not going to fare too well if they're hatching up in the turner. So after 16 days, you know, from the date that you mark when the eggs go in, you want to take the eggs out of the turner and then set them down in the incubator. In most cases, you know, the eggs generally hatch within 18 days of, you know, when they're put in, or, you know, from the time they're laid. So 18 days, you should have baby quail. And then that first, like I was saying, that first 24 hours is extremely important, you know, to get through. When you get through the 24 hours, you know, usually you got some new quail to add to your family. So I'm going to show you the incubator, and then I'm going to move out and show you the brooder that I use, and then we'll move out to some selections as to how to keep your quail. Okay, so this is the incubator that I purchased. I got this through Tractor Supply. The incubator itself does not come with the turner. That's sold separately. And then if you get the egg turners, they're for chicken eggs. They're not for quail eggs, so you got to get the quail rails. So there's three parts that you're going to need when you are going to be raising quail. You need the incubator, which is what this is. You need the turner, which right down here, that's actually the turner right there. I have it out of the incubator right now. You can see the smaller rails. Those are for quail eggs. The larger ones are for hen eggs. I only have 2 rails in there because I can't imagine I'm going to do more than that in quail eggs in this incubator at any given time. If you peek in, you know, you can see some of the baby quail. These are 2 of them. They're still getting their strength. Hopefully I get some more that hatch out later tonight or tomorrow. These are called jumbo brown Coturnix quails. They get to be, they're some of the biggest type quails. They can have the most meat on them, so they're good for, you know, egg laying, because they do lay eggs, and also they're a good source of meat. The thing with quails and what makes them so nice is how quickly they grow. I mean, literally these guys right here, from the time they come out of here and go into the brooder to the outside to the outside quail area. These will be outside within 18 days. They'll be out in. They won't be with the regular quail yet. They'll be in a smaller quail cage until I think they're big enough to get out there with the adults. So, but this is the actual incubator right here that I use, and this has been used quite a lot actually. I've hatched quite a few quail out of here so far. I haven't done chickens in it yet, but I have done quail. All right, so out here is my brooder. These are 3 that are in here. These guys are a little older than the others that hatched out. One of these hatched out last night and the 2 others early this morning. So these guys are all getting their strength now. I have a smaller brooder and a larger brooder, and what will happen is after about 48 hours they'll get graduated into this bigger brooder, and eventually what I'm pulling out over here, this is just kind of like a lid that goes on top because, believe it or not, they learn to fly pretty quick. So I'm just setting that down real quick. The lamp that you see is a heat lamp. It just helps to keep them warm because they have to stay at around 99 degrees for a little while, so I keep this on for at least 3 days straight. It stays on 24 hours a day while they, acclimate, and then I start to tone it down a little bit and let them start getting used to the environment inside here. This particular room is the laundry room, so it's the warmest room in the house. I have a freeze dryer over there that kicks off heat as well, so these guys shouldn't have any problems with it being cold or whatnot, but there they are. They're real cute. Really at this age, right where they are right now, it's hard to tell gender, but usually the loudest one that peeps a lot, they tend to be males. So I'm guessing the very first one born from this group was a male. So that's the brooder, and so they'll be in this little brooder for a day or 2, and then they'll get moved out into this bigger brooder where they will rapidly grow. They will, this time next week, they'll look like quail. They won't even look like little baby chicks anymore. It's amazing how quickly quail grow. All right, so we're heading outside. I just, in my freshly mowed yard, took me all day to mow it. These over here, just so you know, these are not quail. These are chickens, and these chickens think that every single time I come out that I'm supposed to feed them. These are the little sisters that will be joining the flock real soon. And then this area that they're contained in, I'm moving the roosters in there for a while because the roosters, unfortunately, when they're with the hens, egg production doesn't go up, it goes down. And I want eggs. So I'll move some of the old hens in with them so they got companionship. But, as far as all the new hens, they'll be over in this area. The roosters will be up in this area here. So you have a couple of options with quails. And I've seen a lot of people do quail hutches. And you can see that I got a couple of quail over there, 2 white Cotornix quails. Let me get down there. There you go. That are in a hutch. I've got them segregated because I don't want to, even though I can tell the difference in the egg actually, I don't want them intermingling. I'm eventually going to put in a second aviary for those particular, type of quail. Down here you see the jumbo Cotornix. Now you're going to notice that their little heads are all bald. Unfortunately, that is part of quail raising. The males, when they mate, grab the females by the back of the head, and unfortunately they lose their feathers in the process. So all of my females, they all have little short haircuts, so to speak. But that's them, that you can see. They're all happy and well fed and in a nice, safe environment. Now, the thing that I wanted to talk about was uh, different environments. I tried doing the cages, the little cages like what the white quail are in. Um, at first, those seem to be working. However, the problem is the male quails, the little roosters, they are very, very aggressive. And I'm not kidding. Little male quails are aggressive. And they literally were killing each other in those crates. I mean, they will scalp each other. It's not even a question of losing a few feathers on the head. They will rip the top of another quail's head, the skin right off. And it's horrible the way they fight. So you end up having to decide, all right, well, if I'm going to do that, I can keep like a male, with some females in there and go that route, which, that's viable. But I like to make sure I have a few males that are doing what they need to be doing to get, viable eggs. So the other option was to have an aviary, which is the route that I went. I went and bought one of these nice cages. Now, the one thing that I did do, these, as you can see, they have like this chicken wire on them. Um, this wire is designed to go up and around it. However, for flooring, it would have just been the regular ground. I had some extra chicken wire, so even though I don't think you can see it, maybe you can down there, the whole bottom of the flooring has chicken wire. And the reason I did that was the big enemy of quails are raccoons. And raccoons are they're crafty and they figure out ways to get into anything. They already broke into my quail cage once when I first put it together, and they killed 3 of my quail. And that's upsetting when you raise animals, for both meat and for eggs, and then you have another predator get in there and kill your quail. So the flooring, it actually has mesh down on the bottom too. So if a predator thinks it's going to dig underneath and come through, it's got another thought coming. It's not going to get through. So the biggest weak point here is the actual door. In this case, the raccoon had pushed the door in and was able to wiggle through there. That's why you see the like the little stretch cable I got there, the bungee cord. I wrapped that around, and I've got the cinder block right there as well, so that it keeps raccoons from being able to pull the door open or push it in. Other than that, it's pretty predator proof. I'm not saying that things can't get in there. There are little things like mice, I'm sure, get in and help eat the grain at night and things like that, but overall they're pretty safe. I haven't lost any since I did that. Now, the other thing I have is that little fence that you see right there. That's got 3,000 volts running through it. I don't have it turned on. I only turn it on at night, but that's good enough to keep raccoons out of the yard. They don't like that fence. So as long as the fence is on, usually I'm pretty safe from foxes, raccoons, things like that. So quail have a very high libido, so they mate a lot. And then the males fight a lot. And this was the other reason I went with an aviary. Is one, it allows me to have more males mixed with the females. And if 2 males start fighting, there's enough room in here where they can get away from each other without actually harming each other. And then also, if a female doesn't feel like mating, she can also get away from the male if she wants to. So that noise you heard, that was a male quail. That was him making a little quail, kind of like a rooster does a cock-a-doodle-doo. He does his little male quail noise too. So, but the nice thing with this is I'm letting all the vegetation grow in down in the bottom. A lot of weeds are growing in there. Quail like seed, things like that. That's a wild raspberry plant growing at the side there. I'm making a natural environment for them so that it's self-sustaining. I still give them, food, but they also have plenty of room in there to move around and find little bugs and seeds and things like that. These are wild flowers that I keep letting grow in here so that when the flowers die, they fall and they can eat the seeds from those. So this is why I went with the aviary. For me, it just seemed like it made more sense. I can put quite a few quail in here. If I get to the point where I need another one, I'll build another one, and that one may house the white quails. Now, the only drawback to this is, even though, like, even now I can see most of where the quail eggs are down in the grass, it's a quail egg hunt, and you got to be careful. Like there's a quail egg right there. Quail just walked by it. I got to go in and grab the eggs in a second after I feed them. But you got to be careful when you're walking in there, grabbing all the quail eggs. I've already stepped on a few. It does happen, but you got to look for them a little bit more. They're not just in one spot. So that's the drawback to it, is you got to do a little bit of searching for your eggs. That's all. In this case, I do use the eggs for cooking with and stuff, because they produce quite a lot of eggs. At this point, I get more quail eggs than I get chicken eggs. And then as far as my goal is to get more quail, and then I'll start selling the eggs once I have enough hens producing them. So just food for thought. If you're thinking about doing quail for yourself, these are some of the questions you're going to have, or things you're going to have to decide for yourself. Do you want to have a hutch? Do you want to have an aviary? And then you have to weigh out the pluses and the minuses for each one, an aviary versus a hutch. So, and even though I have hutches in there, and basically the way that it works is like that hutch over there that's empty, the baby quail that I have inside right now, when they're ready to graduate, they won't go in with a regular quail yet. They will go into that hutch over there. And then what I'll end up doing is, when they get just a little bit bigger, I'll go ahead and release the females out into the general population. The males I'll leave in there, let them get a little fatter. They'll fight with each other, and then they'll get processed, because I already have enough males, unless I lose a male, and then I'll replace it with a new one. But you only need, like in this case, I've got five males down here right now. That's more than enough, unless I have a lot more quail. That's plenty of male quail for now. So any additional male quails I have, they'll be processed for meat. They won't be used for mating purposes, again, unless I lose one. But again, you want to weigh your options out as to how you're going to raise your quail. And then with the way that prices are going up on bird feed and things like that, having your quail have some ability to free range a little bit is nice, because they do find food all day long, in an environment like this. So just keep that in mind if you're going to raise quail. You can decide if you want to do yours inside of the little cages, or if you want to put them in a big aviary like I did. The aviaries themselves, like these are about $250, I think, is what I paid for that. Now, the plastic that you see hanging there, that's just the inside of a shower curtain. The reason I put that there is it waves back and forth, and even though the quail do come up near it, it kind of makes it harder for them to think that they can fly in that area. So makes it harder for them to escape, and that's the other thing you have to learn too. If you're doing an aviary, That is the other drawback. You have a higher potential of having a quail get out when you are going through the door. What I generally do when I'm going to go in, I always have food. I go around to the back of the quail aviary, and then on the back, see, they're all following because they're used. I throw a little bit of food right here, let them start eating, and then I go through the front, and usually there's hardly any up there at that point, so I can get through safely, get their eggs, get them fed. Everybody's happy, you know. So just some quail basics. Again, let me just recap the first 24 hours. And hold on, let me okay, yeah, like I was saying, the first 24 hours is absolutely the hardest part to raising quails. You get through the first 24 hours. Usually it gets a little easier. You breathe a little easier because they're moving around in there. At that point, you're seeing that they're finding their food, things like that. You get past the first 48 hours, you're usually golden, you know, with quail at that point. If you've got them all still at that point, you should still have them, you know, 18 days later, you know, unless something happens where, you know, one gets hurt or something like that. But you get through the first 48 hours with quail, and at that point it becomes pretty easy to raise them. But, you know, they are very fragile when they're first born, and that's the hardest part, you know, because half the time you'll see them in their brooder when they're first in there, and they're exhausted from hatching, and they'll almost look like they're dead. You'll go over and touch the brooder and they'll move, and you'll be like, oh, thank goodness they're still alive. So but on some occasions you'll go and touch the brooder and they don't move, and you know, you realize that they died. And quail, when they're that age, they die fast. So I mean, literally, you can go in and check on a baby quail and he looks happy and fine, and then you can go back 10 minutes later and he's dead. He or she is dead, you know, and you lost a quail. And if you're homesteading and doing what I'm doing, believe me, you hate losing anything because every one of them is important, you know, to your homestead, because it's either a means of food or a means of eggs or a means of income. So that being said, I just wanted to share that with you about the quail. Again, you want to make sure that you have an incubator. You probably want to have an egg turner. Those are two important things. You want to make sure you get the quail rails if you're going to do quail. You want to make sure that you date mark when your eggs go into the incubator so that you know when to set them down out of the egg turner into the bottom, which is the standard is 16 days. So in 16 days you put them down, and then wait for them to hatch, and then you go through the process of, you know, getting through those first 24 to 48 hours with the baby quail. And at that point, you know, it's happy. The other thing that you want to keep in mind with any kind of baby birds, it doesn't matter if it's a baby quail, baby chickens, I've done it with all of them now. Brooders need to be cleaned. You can't leave brooders dirty. Chickens and quail both, they poop a lot, and so literally, you know, a brooder can be filthy within 24 hours. So you have to stay on top of keeping your brooder clean while your chicks are growing. You don't want them constantly you know, walking around in their own fecal matter and you know, dirty water, things like that. So you got to keep the water changed and keep it as clean as possible. My brooder is in my laundry room, like I said. So the other thing with brooders, if you don't keep them clean, they will start to smell, and I mean smell bad. So again, you know, it behooves you to keep your brooder clean, especially if it's something that you're going to have inside your home, because otherwise your home is going to start smelling really bad. And then that can draw other things, you know, pests, bugs, things like that. That, you know, I don't want any bugs or pests. I know most people don't. So just a word to the wise, keep them clean, you know, keep the brooder clean. So enough said on all of that. If you have any questions about raising baby quails, now that I've done it, sorry, I had a gnat fly in my mouth and was climbing around on my lips, so maybe you saw that. And sorry if it looked disgusting, but in the country we have a lot of gnats out here, and it's unavoidable. When I'm working in the garden, I usually eat 1 or 2 gnats every time I'm out here. Not on purpose, but they just fly right in your mouth and go right down your throat. So, but if you like the video, of course, please hit the like button. Subscribe if you'd like them a lot to my channel. I put things out every once in a while. I'll put stuff out about the homestead. I'll put stuff out every once in a while about news, because obviously be prepared. I'm concerned about the current state of our country, as I think most people are at this point, and feel that we're not going in a very good direction, and that if there was ever a time in life to be a little extra prepared, it's right now, because crap hits the fan, it'll happen fast. So, but that being said, again, hit my like button if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video if you want to. I appreciate that as well. And y'all have a great day. Everybody out there, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Things are getting crazy out there in the world, so you want to always, always, always be prepared. So with that being said, I am signing off. Y'all have a great day. Bye.